Okay.
So we are recording, and so I hope that that doesn't um, um, make you not want to share. And so let's see, there's an official thing I need to put here, that we are recording for the Taos Institute relation education is relating, and this topic is the inviting, imagining, integrating, inspiring students into relationship. So I think that's the official thing there. So I see your chat here. Min Young, I hope I said your name correctly, but I'm from Southern United States, so you might notice that I have a different accent. So sometimes I try to get names correct, but I'll keep the chat on so that you will be able to be a part of this and feel like an active part. So, I guess I'll just start, but with welcome, and that I do hope that this will be something that is interactive. And so I'll just start. I did my certificate in Appreciative Inquiry a couple of years ago as a certificate Appreciative Inquiry practitioner, and I did my project ended up being used as a research article in the International Journal of Appreciative Inquiry, which I was, of course, very excited about. And so I'm just going to first, and then a little bit about me. I'm a full-time teacher. I'm an educator. I teach at an all-boys prep school. I have been incredibly enhanced by certificates in positive psychology. I do teach psychology and some other classes. And then through positive psych, I got really interested in appreciative inquiry. So, so I'm just going to proceed through this article and how it came to be. But I'm just going to talk for some. What I'm hoping is that what we'll do here is that we're going to, let me go back a minute. The article here is I did the 4 I's of online appreciative teaching: invite, imagine, integrate, and inspire. But I'm hoping what we can do here together is that sort of look at the premise of this paper and sort of dream big into how can this become perhaps the 4 I's of appreciative teaching, not just online teaching, but teaching. And my suspicion is that all of us already do this, or we probably wouldn't be at this conference in some way, shape, or form. So I'm hoping that you will be willing to share, and even if down the road, if this interests you, that we can get in touch and like perhaps sort of think about how we can share this with others. And so again, what I want to move from is this more static that I did it with online appreciative teaching to a more dynamic, how are we doing this today, and move forward with it. So I'm just going to quickly go through what I did and with coming up with this. So it was really ironic because I came up with this topic with the faculty member, and it was well before COVID. So I had been asked, and I also teach for an educational consulting company. I teach face-to-face with high school students at a all-boys private school. And then I was asked to teach positive psychology for adults, for teachers actually, for a related online educational consulting company. So I was pretty excited about doing this because I was going to be looking at interviewing really some of the really fabulous online educators in appreciative inquiry and sort of get what they do to make their classes so successful, because I had done the majority of my certificates online. And you know, these people had made me feel like when I finally met them, it was like, oh, I already know you. You know, they had that capability of doing that. Now I wanted to know how they did that. I can do it in the classroom. So, so I started interviewing people, and in the midst of interviewing people, in hopes that I would generate some information, some valuable information on how I could later teach online, COVID hit. So I ended up interviewing these people in the midst of the pandemic. And as I was starting to do this research and then writing about it, I was able to start to integrate it as a fully remote teacher last year. I taught fully remotely. Unfortunately, I did get COVID. I got long COVID. And so I wasn't able to even go back in any capacity except fully remotely. And I can say that if I hadn't interviewed these people, I wouldn't have made necessary shifts that led to some really powerful, as students told me, fully remote experiences. And I credit all the people that I interviewed with this. So I interviewed, I'll move this on if you can see the chat, some of these people here, Lindsay and I think Jackie Stavros, Robin Strattenberg Hessel, and are all affiliated with Taos. So I was able to interview them, and just move here. And just quickly, some of the questions that I asked them were, you know, pretty appreciative inquiry focused questions. What's your most life-giving experience that you had as an online educator? What are your strengths as an online educator? This one was a really good question, I thought, that my faculty advisor suggested. When did you feel like you deeply connected with a student online? So much so that you realized you really didn't even need to be in a classroom. And then, of course, the imagining, the dreaming, if you could create an online course or online educational experience that was even more incredible than anyone could imagine, what would that look like? So those were the questions that I used to interview. And as I was going through all these interviews and looking at it through the lens of appreciative inquiry and the principles of appreciative inquiry, these four different qualities really emerged from the research, which is these people know how to invite, imagine, integrate, and inspire their online communities into dynamic realities. So, and please feel free to interrupt if you have any questions or insights, and just take a swig of water. So the first thing I noticed was that how they invited students is different than face-to-face. It was deeper, it was deeply focused. And what's interesting is that one of the people I interviewed is someone I know is a really dynamic face-to-face teacher and a very dynamic online teacher. So I had seen him in, you know, doing both. And one of the things I noticed about him as an in-person teacher and a colleague, which was that a lot of us, I think, in-person teachers do, you know, focus on, yes, we want to, you know, we want to invite students, we want to get to know them, we want to know their names. And then, you know, we have material that we want to cover, and we want to cover it in a way that, of course, is relational and all this, but, you know, with the pressures of either our own desires to get through material that we feel like is so valuable, and no doubt is, or the pressures from administrators or whatever else there is, it's easy to begin to focus on those things. And I noticed this guy as being somebody who really did focus on those things. In fact, he's an administrator today. But what surprised me so much when I interviewed him was how willing and determined he was to switch gears and realize that more than anything else, inviting students to fully participate was critical, and spend one by one. These people I interviewed said, you have to put aside the idea of the amount of material, even if it's brilliant, and focus on inviting students into a real relationship online. And that takes deliberate action. And so, of course, this comes from the in Appreciative Inquiry, the constructionist principle says, that our words create worlds, that our words create dynamic realities. And, that sort of with 90 to 90% of our human communication is nonverbal. We don't have that nonverbal communication. Sorry about that. So much in, on the online experience. So how do we make up for that? And so these, as I said earlier, these brick and mortar educators face to face, they knew it was critical in terms of what they sent out. Each email, they made a point of one of them. One person interviewed said, "I always send out a face-to-face email, and part of it for me is to show that if I make a mistake while I'm, videoing myself for this welcoming interview, I don't redo it. I want them to see, to invite them into a space where, we can help students to know that it's okay, that it's expected, that it's how we learn is, it's not a bad word. Like I think kids today think it's making a mistake, but it's a part of learning. It has nothing to do with anything wrong. And that for our showing our mistakes, even in a video, he said, that's incredibly important to me. And that's a way that we invite in for kids to be able to participate in a way that isn't looking for perfectionism. So the second I of appreciative online teaching was imagine. And if you have taken any online courses with, powerful online educators, immediately what I'm talking about. I saw this because some of the people I interviewed, I had taken coursework with, and they had this ability to imagine ourselves as co-learners, not learning from the person who is the expert, but learning with the person who is an expert. And it's, I believe, I've taken courses before where I did take classes with an expert online, and I didn't have that sense. And the people that I interviewed that I did take classes with, I saw for myself. Honestly, I wouldn't be here today presenting if I hadn't felt that I was an active co-learner with Lindsay Godwin and Robin Burkessel, Stratton, and other people that I have taken coursework with. And they empower their students to embrace the transformational nature of their own intellectually curious nature. I think, speaking again from my experience in the interviews, they embrace students to be curious. They embrace students to be creative. They embrace students to see that while they might not do what these experts are doing, that what they have to do is valuable. And, I think that's they, and inherent in the word imagine is creative, creativity. And I think that all so often in our culture, we only see creativity, or students only see creativity. You say you're creative. No, I'm not. I've had students, you probably have too, if you teach. I'm not creative. I'm like, yes, you are. No, I'm not. And that to be able to help students be able to see that, to not be locked into a definition of creativity that revolves only around, the arts. And so they have a capability of doing that. Well, I imagine in terms of appreciative inquiry, the simultaneity principle urges us to remember that whenever we ask a question of a student, of ourselves, that we're helping that student create anew. That the question intrinsically points to unexplored realities. And these online teachers, educators, didn't give questions that were yes or no, or I know this, or this is what the expert says. These online educators posed questions that help students imagine themselves and begin to see themselves as co-learners. And I think once they are able to do that, which I said, again, I've experienced, anything is possible with that student. When they are see the expert or the educator is pointing us into a way to go dream wild and go create. You can do it. You don't have to wait for the expert. You can do it. And then the anticipatory principle of appreciative inquiry reminds us that we're always anticipating something. And I actually have a master's in theology and teach theology as well. And I remember learning about this in terms of theological concepts. It's in my 20s, and someone saying that, that the willing, that we're always moving towards something else, always moving towards, and I remember actually I didn't actually like that in a way, because I'd never thought about it. No one had ever taught me of that in terms of that being a positive way of experiencing human dynamics. But I was younger and think, well, when I achieve this, I'll be happy. When I'll achieve this, I'll be happy. And I think students do that. They get asked questions of, what are you going to major in? What are you going to do when you get out? We all get it when and to put that in a positive, life-giving, creative sensibility, instead of like the all too often, what are you milestones or for achieving something in life, the great job, the great car, or anything like that. Look in these in the way that enhance our own humanity. Very, very powerful. And I really got that from these courses with these people, and also from the research. The next one up, and as a teacher myself, thankfully, I've always enjoyed technology. A lot of people don't in the educational field, but these online educators did two things. They were emphatic about viewing technology as an essential, not just essential because you can't do it any way else, but a positive tool of education. That technology as a tool can help us integrate well, I mean, look, we were forced online with COVID. What a tool. What a tool Zoom is. We're only here today because of Zoom, or, or perhaps some other technological, tool or whatever. But we can either fight it, or we can embrace it as something positive. And so what I discovered that these online educators do that. And then some of these educators have never taught and don't really care to teach face-to-face. They prefer teaching online, and they believe that in many ways it's more powerful in some ways than teaching face-to-face. And I can say I experienced that from the courses I took from some of these people that I interviewed, that they were as powerful, sometimes more powerful than courses I had face-to-face. And when I integrate, well, we have the positivity principle, and that, if you have studied any or been enhanced by positive psychology yourself, that, it's research strategies to enhance well-being. And then there's the, excuse me one second. Did I make a mistake on here? Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry. And then the poetic principle, that what we focus on grows. If we approach things with technology as something, research, how can I make it positive? How can I find this to not look at it as something that is some sort of technological monster that I have to just get through? But what about flipping it and considering, hey, this is actually a good thing. And then if we focus on the good parts of technology, not in some, ridiculous way, but by learning about how to use it as a way to enhance our education, and to enhance teaching. And I think it's most valuable tool, creating life-giving co-learning communities, which is, again, what's happening here. So what we focus on grows, even a positive approach to technology. And that's not a false approach anymore. I think as someone who's studied positive psych, one of the things that I think people don't know anything about it tend to view it as sort of like, just think positive and things will be better. And of course, that's not what it is. It's learning about strategies that have been researched and shown to enhance well-being across the board in our humanity. So why can't we do that with technology? And that's what these educators have done. Sometimes we have to do the work, I have discovered, and as most of us have, I think. If you're here, I'm sure that we have to do the work to find something, the positivity or the enhancement in a particular type of tool. And, as an educator, I can say with some authority, it's my beginning my 20th year, that I've seen a lot of models and a lot of different things come through that teachers try to enhance learning. Not all of them work, and it can be aggravating because we, take on somebody else's, let's do this year, and let's do this year, and let's do this year. Well, there's really no way to know if they're effective unless we try them. But this is one, integrating technology is one that we don't have to guess that it enhances education. People are showing us how it is. And I'm just, I feel fortunate to have experienced it personally. And the fourth I of online appreciative teaching, inspire. And I think, I think all educators inspire. I think we all do. It's just intrinsic to what we do, whether you're educating people, as someone who is in business, who is helping others, helping that their employees learn a new model for whatever it is, or whether it is someone in a classroom or someone teaching nurses, whatever it is. We have the intrinsic ability to inspire others. Not all educators are inspiring. I believe all educators have the ability to inspire. I think that these educators, seeing what they have done, inspired me. And I think that they inspire others by being big dreamers and giving their students permission by their own modeling to embrace both intellectual vulnerability and emotional vulnerability. And I think, in the academic community, intellectual vulnerability is very difficult. Sometimes I think as educators, we would prefer not to take a risk with our own intellectual capacities or dreams because they might get not accepted or not embraced. That doesn't mean they're not valuable. These educators really know how to embrace their own vulnerability and use it to model that for their students. And again, I would not have written this paper, nor would I have had it published, which was a great thrill. I didn't know that was going to happen, nor to be, invited to come here today. That's all because of really specifically Lindsay Godwin, who is an Appreciative Inquiry educator and at Champlain College. And so this is the end of what I did here. And the inspiring, I think we all know how different people inspire. And then, just in conclusion, it's like with the wholeness principle, basically, it's, with Appreciative Inquiry, that everything is integrated. We can't separate our mind or our body any more than we can separate any of these principles. That they all are dynamically connected. So, and then I have sources here, and so I want to stop for a sec and just ask you if you have any questions. What I would like to do next is to go through these, and I don't want to do all the talking, and invite you to consider both how you've done this in your own, whatever your educational situation is, and how you would love to see it. So.
Yeah, hi, this is Mamta.
Mamta?
From India. Yeah, am I audible to you?
Yeah, there you are. Hi.
Yeah, hi. How are you?
I'm good. And are you want to say a little bit about? Maybe we should go around. I probably should have started that. But actually,
I was just listening to what you were saying, and you have beautifully put all those things which we all have been doing during this pandemic times into the words. And I truly believe that whatever like you have shared with us, like you have shared the appreciative teaching strategies, I would say, which includes the inviting, imagining, integrating, and inspiring part, that truly shows that how we educators have come a long way, and we have integrated all these things during this, not only in this pandemic times. We were doing these things earlier also, but this pandemic time has made it all the more important to use all these things all together. So I would like to narrate my experience where I have been using this thing. Like when the pandemic started, so there was like so much of tension among all of us, like how would we go about it, how to use the technology, because we are tech savvy to some extent, but bringing classroom all together on the virtual mode was a big challenge for all of us. So I tried my best to connect with my student, and I use the connect strategy, which we have also learned in our teaching meetings, I would say. So I laid down the very foundational thing for that, and I invited all my students. I tried in my in all my efforts to reach out to them, and then I gave them the the blank canvas to paint whatever they want to, whatever they want to imagine and think. It was not only about teaching, it was like building a stronger connect with them. So once the connect is established, half of the the battle is won.
Mhm.
So they were like very much interested in listening to me. They were like sharing their experiences with me. Their mood swings were there, so I used to keep on their checking their well-beings also through various strategies, like through emojis and through different activities. I used to conduct energizers, playing riddles with them and cracking jokes with them. So the kind of connect I had with them, that made the work very easier for me. And then I integrated various tools also in online teaching method. Like I used the Google Docs, the Google app, the the Google Slides, and the Kahoot, everything I could use. And I inspired, I hope so, I have inspired my students, and in my own little way, to just feel the thing that learning is not a painful experience, it's a joyful experience, and we all are doing it together. So that was my sharing from my part, and I would
Oh,
thank you for for sharing such beautiful things. You have beautifully put our things into words, I would say. Thank you so much, Mary.
oh, you're so welcome. And please, if you think of anything else, I have these set up like this, but I love that you just went ahead and it doesn't matter. We're being recorded. So however you wish, if you think of anything else, I would love to hear it. We would love to hear it. So we have Seema and Min is on chat. That doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you, Min, and I can save your chat. Renee, do you, or Seema, do you have anything that you would like to add to the conversation? Would you like to go through it like with these four eyes and then sort of consider it that way?
Yeah, hi, I'm
Hi,
Seema,
Seema.
and yeah, hello. So, while working online, I developed a few activities like card games or something. Then we taught the students to learn. Since I'm an English teacher, for new birds, I asked them to prepare some cards at home, and for building relationships, play with the and then just take the card towards your grandmother, grandfather, because in our India we live in a joint family, and then
Mhm.
and ask them to pull just one card, just request them to pull one card and read the card aloud. And if you're not able to understand the pronunciation, you can go to Google and learn about the new pronunciation. Because even if I have read English, I have studied English at my time, the basic pronunciations have changed. People have started using using even American terms, American slangs are there.
Ah,
So that is, I motivated them for self learning and involving the family uh,
mhm.
by playing card games, playing just make those cards, convert them into slips and play the parcel game with the family, and then play the music, and then pull one card and read it aloud and check it on Google whether you pronounced it properly or not. Similarly, listening to the stories from their parents or grandparents and then thinking about those stories in English using their imagination and giving a different end to the story. That also I asked them to do. And then they really enjoyed the activities, and that made them busy during online learning sessions. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you, did anybody else want to mention about what they did online? But I also want to think about how we can bring this sense into the classroom. And then I see that I just want to read out loud Min Young's question on chat, and I just want to say I'm not. I'm looking. I don't think I can answer this, but I think it's it's something that we all have to discuss. How do you propose the change of culture of learning? And I think that's what this whole conference is about. For example, in a clinically focused program with students that want information to regurgitate for marks, I am right with you. How can we enhance the way of learning and the AI way of learning, especially in an online environment? So I just want to throw that out there for us to consider. I don't have an easy answer. I know that I feel like I'm just starting to move into that. Does anybody want to mention that?
Yes, I would like to
Hi, Renee.
have some suggestions. Hi, I'm from Denmark.
Yes.
You can see, and I am working as a college professor, so I actually use AI quite a lot. And now that we have the COVID time, I've been working almost a year through Zoom. So that's been the way of being with my students. But I think even though I try to do things as vivid as possible, I think it's a problem that we lack all the body language, as you mentioned before. And it's a problem that we are not able to move as we speak. But when that is said, I think we would be able to create the structures through Zoom, so that we ask them to go into breakout rooms and talk 2 by 2 and 4 by 4, so we can make some of the structures work even though they're not in the same room. But just to make them work in their own imagination instead of the teacher's imagination. Right. So I think that's actually a possibility, and above all, I think it's that it's amazing that it's possible to teach across country borders and help each other share knowledge like that. So that's the vast advantage, I think, with the Zoom revolution.
Right. And I just, I remember feeling so surprised interviewing somebody who was basically, they all said this, with teaching completely remotely, that you have to make a decision to not be giving as much information in class or teaching lecture as you do face-to-face. You have to be willing to sacrifice some of that, which I'm sure that you're already doing, and I'm sure you are too, Min-Yoon. We have to make a decision to sacrifice some material for the sake of enhancing the relationship. And in enhancing the relationship, the way I think that work is, it works for them, and how I started to see it. It's hard for us to drop material. You know, that's hard. I mean, I consider everything I could possibly teach to be important. But unless there's time left for the relating, it's not just the relating piece to get to know them and all that. It's to invite them into becoming co-learners. That's what the relationship piece is all about. Because once we have to know all their names and know them buddy, but once we are able to relate with them, they relate with us. It's easy to move them into giving them permission to go find answers for themselves.
But I think that one important issue is, for me, that I've realized based on Bateson that I'm actually not able to make them learn anything. They have to choose to learn.
That's right.
So I can present something more or less to put it on the table and say, well, here's an idea. What do you think about that? So I have to give up the idea that I can influence anyone. I can just inspire them to choose what part of what I have just shown you will be relevant for you just now. So I think that makes the more basic part. We can't make them interested in what we do unless we create a relation that makes them listen to what we are trying to share with them.
I agree.
So I think it's very basic to establish the relationship at first before we talk about learning any subjects at all.
Right. And I think also, and then this is a great question, but how do we enhance the relationship given the context? They've never been co-learners. How do we shift it? I mean, that's what I was so shocked to be able to consider myself a co-learner on these online classes. And I think, and I've tried to do it in the classroom. I have stopped saying when kids ask me questions, academic questions about material, I don't always try and say, I don't say, if I don't know the answer, I usually, I'll look into that and get back to you, look into the research, whatever. And now I'm like just like what I learned was well, I don't know that answer. What is it? Why don't you go find it out? And one of the things that I've done this year, this has really enhanced my online, because I'm back full time now in person. And I'll say that what I do now is that one, I give them, make sure that they have, because what I'm teaching right now is a required class that a lot of them don't want to take. So helping them to find some reason, what's their reason for learning this? Besides, what can they get out? Really push having them find some reason to take it of their own, even if they don't really want to take it. Even if it's just like learning how to be really successful in a material that I don't really like. And, I relate it to, if you learn how to be an active learner and stuff you don't like, boy, that'll enhance your relationships. Because you got to listen to a lot of things you don't really want to in good relationships, And the other thing is, I have worked this year to have them embrace their creativity. And to try and make them not to go beyond seeing it like the arts, and give examples from, sports figures here that, that are brilliant. I said, you think that for instance, here, Tom Brady, the football player, the American football player, do you think he's not brilliant playing at 44 years old? He's brilliant. He's creative. He's so creative. Or somebody who does technology or computers. If somebody who has made a new computer program, that's being creative. I said, I don't want to ever hear any of you say you're not creative. And to sort of like embrace what they're good at in their own creativity and somehow help them. Somehow I think what that does, at least that's what I experienced from these educators, to embrace my own academic creativity. Once I'm able to do that, I start to see myself as a co-learner. And, just this week, I've invited several kids that had really great questions that I could have come up with some answer that was probably accurate or close to accurate in terms of but instead I said, it's a great question. Why don't you go research that? And it's like, that's I think a simple way of having to enhance co-learning. Anyhow, that's my experience.
Yeah. I would just one thing to support it is that I'm very occupied by giving up the truth and instead saying to my students, if they have an answer for it, instead of saying that's wrong, that's very frustrating to see. Well, interesting. That's one answer.
Yes,
could we examine other answers? Are there other possibilities, other stories? So
right.
that generativity comes in front instead of right or wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. That's greedy. I don't know if you're in here. Let's see. Somebody who just wrote. Oh, here we go. Oh, I have a few more people. Sorry, I had a couple of other people I didn't realize that have joined us. Being a co-learner with students, Yagridi, excuse me, mispronouncing your name. Being a co-learner students changes the game. Instead of being a sage on the stage, we can do better by being the guide on the side. Absolutely, absolutely. And the exciting thing for me this year has been bringing it into the online classroom, and it has made such a huge difference. So I'm just wondering, does anybody, if anybody else wants to add some things about what I've put up here, just as guiding questions. Let's see, the second I is imagining, and I think we've sort of talked about that. Okay, here's a big one. The integrating technology, seeing technology as a tool. I think that when students see us embracing technology, I've had students say, "Oh God, Miss Kiley, my mom doesn't know how to do that," and I'm like, "Well, I mean, I've always loved technology, and and it's a great tool." And I don't know if anybody wants to add into that, how we can, or if you're here, you probably already embraced technology, is what I'm guessing. They want to add anything to this part, or to add anything else that has already been said, please feel free. Nidu, I love what you said here in the chat. The main focus on becoming co-learners is to developing critical thinking by inviting students to answer. And I think Yagridi just said that, about it not, we all get so shut down when someone says, "Well, that's not it." But in some way, you sort of have to, if the student's really incorrect and not on the right path, even just saying that it's an interesting way of looking at it. Not exactly enhancing that, but helping them to see what anyhow, rambling a little here. Sorry about that. Connect is more important than content. Classroom celebration can help to enhance relationship with teacher. Small events must be celebrated in innovative methods. Everyone will be learning from one another's experiences and perceptions. I love this, not imposing ourselves on students and let creativity take wings. Anybody want to add anything into I'm mindful of the time. We've got about 10 minutes left. If anybody wants to add anything into the enhancing ways to enhance technology, or seeing it as something that's very positive.
Yeah, someone asked in the chat about evaluation when we talk about AI. But if one worked with AI, the focus wouldn't be evaluating what's right or wrong, but evaluating in the form of generating possibilities.
That's right.
Because if we generate possibilities and processes, it makes people capable in more different contexts, and that makes them better cope in their lives. Barbara Fredrickson from positive psychology has worked with what creates flourishing, and that's generativity is one of the parts of creating flourishing, because when you got generates more ways of thinking and more ways of acting, you're actually stronger in different contexts.
That's
so
right.
they would they would not be focusing on evaluation as what's right or wrong, or what can we do as some kind of test. They would be interested in what works in real life.
Exactly.
So that would be my suggestion in that way. Yes.
Oh, right. And of course, Fredrickson's research on positive emotions and how focusing on positive emotions enhances and brings forth creativity and all sorts of wonderful qualities of self-growth. I mean, right at the moment, so, like helping kids to not look for a right or wrong answer, but to, just answer in a way that is positive, that helps them to move towards another way of looking at it. It enhances everything immediately.
Yeah. If someone is very interested, Min Young asks about evaluation, that I know at Diane Marie Hosking and Sheila McNamee has made a book about appreciative relationship. I think, I'm not sure what the title is, but where they show us what the difference is from traditional research and relational research. That's very interesting to see, but the main focus would be always how can we create new processes that makes us capable in the context we are.
Right. Would anybody else like to, I don't want to add anything about, and I'll just go back in terms of, and maybe I'll just sort of shift these ending questions here to, a very very AI question. If we could all take a minute to consider schools or universities, places of learning that are known for their inviting ways of relationship building that leads to learning, or a school or classroom or whatever that is a teacher and educator is known for being able to do these things, to enhance student learning, just to see what co-learning looks like. What would that look like? How could we make this? This whole conference is about, breaking down the business model of education that doesn't work. In the United States, 20 years ago, there was this trickle-down economics theory that, the top had all the, positive resources, they would trickle down. Of course, it didn't work. And this sort of trickle-down education doesn't work either. This business model of education just doesn't work. And we suffer for it, and our students suffer for it. How can we use these sort of, these 4 eyes perhaps, or into helping to bring forth a new model of education? I don't know what a school or a university would look like without another way of looking at this. What would a school, a university, whatever, look like that had embraced a relational model of education as opposed to a business model? What might that look like?
But just now, I think we go the wrong way many places, because we see more and more students getting anxiety problems and getting diagnosis, and that's because of the increased demands from society. Right. I assume. So we have to work hard, even harder, to try to spread some of these ideas, I guess. there's enough to do for a lifetime.
I know, and more. Sorry, that's, he was with me, this cat, Rory. He's learned about appreciative inquiry, he's learned about positive psych, he's learned about all the courses I teach. And he was a good friend. He's been a wonderful partner during the pandemic. So I know we're getting ready to close up here. I would so love for any of you who are interested in continuing this to get in touch with me. And thank you all for being here. I would so love to, continue this. And yes, Renee, it is enough work for a lifetime, but perhaps we can at least make a start of bringing forth what this is about. You know, this conference is about, is bringing forth a relational model of education. I would love to be in touch with any of you.
Yes.
So I think it's time to go. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. Thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure, and I hope to hear from you again.
Thank you too.
You're so
It's
welcome.
very inspiring to